I go back to John and T. I'm Molly, and this is Matt. So Matt, is it time to talk about Josh?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so I've been very much the same as you on our journey with this pod. Josh is probably, he is the reason I'm doing this. So Josh is my ex-partner, and he killed himself on the 2nd of January 2022. We was together a year, and yeah, it was great. There's nothing more to say about it, the relationship itself, other than it was great. It was like we just kind of met once and clicked. One of those, and we was just coming out of the pandemic at the time, so it was around March, April 2021, and yeah, he was just moving out of his family's place, which was about an hour away, moving to Cardiff to set up a home studio in Cardiff, and yeah, the relationship just developed really quickly. And I spent a lot of time probably working from home there, doing my uni work there, helping him with his studio stuff. And yeah, we was having a lot of deep conversations. So he was brought up Christian, in a very religious background, and he'd come out 5 years before meeting me, but he's still struggling with that. His identity. He was brought up Christian with a certain set of beliefs, and obviously part of his identity was also being gay. So we'd have a lot of deep conversations about life, God, hell, heaven, spiritualism, life after death, all that sort of stuff. We could just see it was a lot of questions he'd be asking, like my opinion on, and just see he was really deeply thinking about all this stuff. But then by the end of the summer, I suppose there was a combination of things. He was setting up his business, which was, that was a stressful period as well, but he was contemplating a lot of his identity. By the end of the summer, it started turning into depression, like clear-cut depression, and he started getting panic attacks and things. And then, yeah, by the October, I guess, was the first time where he told me he wanted to kill himself, and he was telling me that he was researching ways to do it.
How do you deal with that?
If I'm honest, it's a very big blur, because at the time my mum was also suicidal. So I was going home till my mum wanted to kill herself, and I was, to be honest, trying to escape that by going to Josh's. And then he was wanting to kill himself. It was just
too much.
Yeah, I probably just didn't process it properly at the time. And like I'll always remember a question he asked me, which was, is it selfish to kill yourself? And that's the question will always haunt me, because of the answer I gave at the time, which was, I said no. And I know now I would not say that. I don't know what I'd say, but I know it wouldn't be that.
So you think it would be in the hope that he wouldn't do it because he?
I think he was looking for. For what's the word? Acceptance of, like, not acceptance,
And validating.
validation to, he was having these thoughts and to do it. And
Do you think he's convincing himself? Or was he convinced you think that up in Bath he was doing that?
I think he was planning it for a long time, but I think, I can't. You can always sit here and say, everyone will always say, like, I wish I said that. I just know that is something that haunts me.
Yeah.
An answer that I gave that I will always remember. I wish I didn't give that answer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he so yeah, around the October he told me he wanted to kill himself. And by the November he started distancing himself from me, but in a way that making himself busy with work kind of thing. And then by the second week of December, he broke up with me. I was over his, and he got a panic attack, which he would get quite often. And when this was happening, we'd go and do some meditation or mindfulness to try and calm him down, which would usually work. But this time, he was going into a deep panic attack, and he called his mum. And so his mum had referred him to a counsellor. He was speaking to a counsellor every day. He was keeping a journal. She'd also referred him to the GP, and we put on antidepressants and all that. But yet, that night, called his mum. He was on the phone to her in the kitchen for about an hour, and then he came back through to me and said, "It's over. I need to be on my own." So I got my stuff and I left. And we met up about a week later. Just a kind of, how are you? How are you doing? Kind of thing. He was the one, I think, that requested to meet up. It was very confusing. We kissed. It was very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But that all it was a chat, and then
Did you talk about the breakup, or?
No, it was more about how he's feeling, and it was complicated because it was like he wanted to get back with me, but he didn't. It was just, I didn't push it either way. I was just there.
Yeah.
And after that, he reached out to me a few times saying over text, saying that he missed me, which I ignored because I guess I was probably trying to protect myself. I just felt confused.
Yeah.
And then he sent me a long message Christmas Eve, which was the last message he sent me, which basically said that he missed me and he wishes things were different. It was quite cryptic. It didn't really explain why things didn't work out.
Yeah.
He wishes it did.
Okay.
And then on the 2nd of January, that's when he killed himself. And I got a phone call that night, midnight, from his mum. And just everything kind of crumbled, like I was in shock. And then, I go off work. I just was shattered, the person I was.
Yeah.
And then I had to go to his funeral, which was probably one of the hardest experiences of my life. So his funeral was on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, just 4 days after my birthday. And the funeral itself, it was split into two halves. So the first half was run by the church pastor, the church that this family was part of. I'd only found this out a few days after, but the priest that actually led, or the pastor that actually led the ceremony, was the pastor that gave him in December a book on celibacy. So his mum referred him to that pastor, and they gave him a book on celibacy to kind of help him. And obviously I didn't know about all that going on
He wasn't told.
at the time. At
was
the time, because it was after the funeral I found out from his friends, and some people at the church, which obviously really angered me. But the first half of the funeral, it wasn't a celebration of Josh, it was a celebration of God, and anything that was related to Josh was very much up until the 5 years, up until he came out.
Yes. So you just couldn't accept him.
Yeah, but it was very much a celebration of God more than Josh. And then the second half of the funeral, which is the only reason I stayed, which was led by then his friends, who were all in the music industry, and they put on a really good show, which was a celebration of Josh.
Yeah.
And the person he was in the last 5 years of his life. And the Welsh of the West End performed, which Josh used to produce for, and it was beautiful. It was such a contrast from
From what you had.
from what it was.
Mm. But nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And yeah, so then obviously I went into my own spiral of depression. I was on antidepressants. I was put on surgery in 6 months. Well, I was put on it indefinitely, but after 6 months, I started doing a bit of research, and I've been on my own journey, and I've also had my own journey with psychedelics. And so yeah.
How did you come up off psychedelics? Because for me, it was my parent, my one parent, telling me experiences, and then I've obviously it's come about. How did you? Is it something you heard by somebody else, or?
So my first ever experience with psychedelics was just in Amsterdam when I was in my early 20s. So at the time, I was in a relationship with a woman, and I just had my first child, and yeah, I took my mushrooms from Amsterdam, automatic truffles, I think they're called, around three times, and yeah, my first experience with it was with my first trip. It was very, I got the visuals, which were fun, seeing multiples, like,
Colours you never seen before.
seeing colours you haven't seen before. People walk past and you see trails of them. Yeah, it's like they're a comet or something. Yeah. The really fun visuals, but then the second half of the trip, I decided to go to bed, and I had a very introspective experience. I do remember feeling like I was a mushroom. But as weird as that sounds, it was more that I felt really connected to the universe.
Yeah.
I just remember, it was really weird, I had the sun shining on me in bed, and I felt like a very happy mushroom, and every time the sun would go behind the cloud, I felt like a sad mushroom. But there was more to it than that. I can't remember, it was so long ago I won't be able to tell you the thoughts, but it was a very introspective experience. And I didn't realise at the time, but that had a big impact on me coming out, and
Like you had a realisation of
self-discovery and acceptance of being able to process my thoughts, my gay thoughts, and accept them and accept me. But at the time, I actually had no idea they had anything to do with it. But
you just doing it.
I came out to my partner, but literally within a few weeks of my first trip, and then over the 2 years following that, it was a journey of kind of self-discovery and self-acceptance. And me and my partner were breaking up, but getting back. So there's kids involved, and another kid, I guess, a second child.
Yeah.
But I was going through a journey of starting to accept who I was. But I had no idea that they had anything to do with it, but they did. looking back, you kind of see that.
You would have just had this realization as well recently.
Yeah.
So looking back.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because another thing that I'll always remember about my conversations with Josh, obviously we was talking about all these really deep things, spiritualism.
What's real, not real.
Yeah, self-identity and all this. And at the time, I didn't even know myself that they had such a big impact on me coming out. And me kind of accepting myself and all this. I guess subconsciously I did. And I had a conversation with Josh about you should try psychedelics. And kind of brushed it off. He was like, no, that's not my thing, and too scared to do it really. And he decided to go with the more traditional approach, and that's when he ended up on sertraline. That was around October time. And then, by the January.
This is the October recount himself.
Yeah.
So there's they say there's statistics, don't they, that the first 6 to 8 weeks after starting any kind of mental health crime, suicide is at its highest.
Why?
Do you know that?
Yeah.
And
one of the side effects.
It's one of the side effects, yeah. And it feels like that was a shame because he obviously didn't get the support even from his family,
Yeah, and but yeah, I remember that and connect those dots after. At the time, I didn't know why I was suggesting psychedelics, and I was never going to push it.
No,
it was just something. Now
it was really helped him.
Yeah, but then, so after he killed himself, I went into my own depression, and I ended up on antidepressants.
What's your experience on that?
I felt well, actually, I could say I felt numb, but I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, dead
inside.
Nice.
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, I was crying, but not really feeling the full emotion.
Not connecting.
Behind it.
Yeah, like a mask.
Yeah, so I started doing my own research into like mental health, and I came across basically all the clinical trials that have been done for the last 10 years, all about more than the last 10 years, but since the 60s and 70s all over the world, but specifically in the UK, this clinical trial has been going on in the University College of London and others since 2011.
Yeah.
So, I've seen a few documentaries on Netflix as well.
There's lots of actually psychedelic documentaries on Netflix.
So I started seeing these, and then I started connecting the dots about, I've done this before, and kind of, I realized that it did help me in my journey of self-discovery and processing that. So, yeah, I was on antidepressants for about 6 months, and then I decided to come off them, and it was just came off them. Didn't even go back to the GP. I just didn't get renewing my subscription.
I've done that before.
And
it's hard.
And yeah, I turned to magic mushrooms, and last year I probably did magic mushrooms once a week for about 3 months. It really did help me process all of my thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and actually go through it.
Yeah.
Like go through it
again
and deal with it. Not just go through it, but deal with it.
For me, it's like a slow-mo version, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah. But more than that as well, it's this the kind of sense of feeling connected, kind of the universe. That's the only way you can describe it. It is just, I've gone on a journey where I've become a lot more spiritual as well. Since Josh.
Yeah.
Really. Before Josh, I remember the conversations me and Josh used to have, and I used to say to him, I think there is something. I used to say, I don't believe in God.
No.
I said, I don't believe in God. I think religions are which is my opinion, are a form of control. That's what they've been used as in history, to control people. That is my opinion. But I've always said that I used to ask about life after death and like this and that. And I used to say, I think there is some energy in that. I can never explain it, but I do think there's something more. That was my opinion before.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a lot more spiritual than even that.
You feel it, you felt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you feel it and see these things, you can't unsee or feel these things.
No.
That's the truth. And I think everybody is more spiritual.
Yeah, there's definitely a link between going through shit, going through trauma, and that making you more spiritual and just connected. Spiritual, people might hear that word and switch off, but it's just connected to life.
Yeah.
Connected to
be self-aware and everything around you, I think.
Yeah.
You taught it at school, everything is done in energy.
Yeah.
Why is it different now?
Yeah.
You know?
So, I went on that journey, and with psychedelics. And again, I'm not here to advise anyone medically. This is not what this is. All we're doing is sharing our experiences, and we want to be able to get professionals out to be able to ask them their thoughts on this. But I know that I might be on a cocktail of antidepressants right now if I didn't go on the journey that I went on.
Yeah.
Me and Molly were just talking before the pod, talking about, do we feel like it's necessary for us to need to take a psychedelic?
Yeah.
Probably not anymore.
It's done. It kind of feels like it's done what it's done. And I feel good. Do I feel like I'll never do it again? Probably will, like in a couple of years. I don't know. It's not. It's something I could definitely do. Really, as in an exchange, but instead of doing that big pharma, duloxetine tablet, sertraline, citalopram. These are just 3 I've been on. Okay, and these are a couple. These are, like you said, a cocktail that I've been on all my life since I was like 16, 17. So I'd rather do this a couple of times, maybe a year or 5 years. I don't know. But I can already see it's less and more beneficial to me than taking that medicine. And you know yourself, but you just feel dead. I've never felt more like me, and I don't think you've ever felt more like you. Ever.
Yeah. It does put you in touch with yourself, with your soul.
Yeah, it does.
So.
And I mean, like we said, in a few years' time, we may see things changing, and it won't be such a taboo subject. But for us, it was important, and for you to touch on it, because maybe they may have saved George. Maybe they'd have helped George.
It's not a maybe. In my mind, I have no doubt if it's...
I'll be honest, I haven't had about experience. You haven't. I don't know many people who have. I think...
I've had a 35 minutes. But, I mean...
I honestly think you may have...
On the whole...
Helped him.
It's
It was worth a try, at least, So, I think that's why it was important to bring it up with George, because obviously this whole thing for you has been based around the fact that George triggered you on this journey because you had that traumatic event, and like we said, that journey with trauma, it kind of catapulted you into being this different person because you lost yourself for a bit when you lost him.
Yeah.
You know, you had to find yourself again. You didn't have a choice. You had to pick yourself back up. and you've done what you've done, and I can't be boasting for so much this year. You've changed a lot this year, and I do see it. You're a different person to the Mac that came to see me no longer after George died. You was not yourself then. And I see you've got come through, you're coming out.
Well, yeah, you met me probably the year before. 2019 we met, and I came out in... Oh, you maybe the year after I came out.
Yeah,
but I came out to a family in radical sense, and not like people who didn't know me. Like I wasn't happily me,
Yeah,
I still a bit of a...
That's what I mean. Even with you, I knew you then, but the Matt I know now is the Matt I've always seen, but wasn't able to come out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always know you as this person, but you're a better version now because you are fully you, being you, authentic you. You've definitely come a long way in the condoms going long I've known you now. And this pod felt like the right time today. I felt like the right time now. And why not start with Josh? I began with Josh. Come here. Little memory of Josh for you.
And I think that's a very big reason around the timing of the pod as well, because New Year is the biggest, is the time with the highest suicide rates all over the world.
Yeah.
Not
Christmas and New Year period.
But New Year's Eve, especially that night, even though we did it on the 2nd, but it is this whole period, from Christmas.
I know a counsellor who claims that the whole of January, majority of January also, is like the busiest time for them. Referrals, private, NHS, people struggling. And sometimes because weather, stress, society, we're just at Christmas, it's expensive. Things are hard now. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse if we don't stop talking about it. And these two subjects, unfortunately, despite some people thinking that we shouldn't discuss it, do need to be discussed, because I truly believe, especially with, when Parliament have even deemed it safer than alcohol, right? Do believe that there will be a time where we will see, just like cannabis, a time where it will maybe not so to rule then. Or even maybe not legalised, but legalised in a medical setting.
Well, we've got a friend who's been referred for ketamine-assisted therapy.
Yeah. But I didn't know it was a thing at the time. And then when I was like, what? So things are moving weirdly fast, but no one's talking about it. Everybody doesn't want to talk about it. Like ketamine therapy then, obviously you know a bit more about that. How was that different?
From what I've seen, again, I watch a lot of Diary of the CEO, and they spoke about this stuff. They've had a few professionals come in and speak about it. From what I understand about ketamine-assisted therapy, it's a dissociative drug. So people who have experienced talk trauma tend to bury and block and black that stuff out as a form of self-protection. So it's difficult to revisit that trauma with a therapist and and then process it, because you can't access it. With ketamine-assisted therapy, when you're speaking to a therapist, you are more easily able to unlock those memories and then process them, because you're
emotions in it. So like head and body disconnect, so you can. Is that how we move?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a very dissociative between your brain and your body. If you take a lot, it can paralyze your body, kind of.
Okay.
Where your brain is.
So like your brain to where, so you're emotionally not connected to it. Then I'm guessing you would speak.
Yeah. There's that, and then there's also other things that are good, and this is for just psychedelics in general, from LSD to ketamine, is the impact it has on the networks in your brain. So you're used to using specific networks, and those networks are basically thought patterns. So you can think of it as a habit. You need to reach for that cigarette or that drink, or it could be a depressive pattern. Something triggers a And the more you use them, the stronger those networks get. So it's your brain just uses them easier.
Thinking of muscle.
A muscle. It's like a muscle that you're working up. And you working it, and over time you can build up bad patterns, bad thought patterns, bad networks. And when you take psychedelics, it kind of scrambles all those patterns in the trip. But then for the week after, those your networks slowly go back to how they was.
Absolutely.
But they go back to how they was. But you've got an opportunity in that week to use the new patterns. And if you use the new patterns, then you have an opportunity that your brain won't fully go back to the old. So that's where it's effective in helping with addiction. I think there's an over 60% success rate in with help with alcoholism and things like that. Depression, because again, it's just a thought pattern. You try to get rid of that using that pattern and use a different pattern.
Yeah.
And then with things like cognitive behavioral therapy and things, which is about getting you to build those new patterns, it's a lot easier to do with the
when it's open and
if it makes you open, it makes you open.
And I'll be honest, yeah, I feel like
It makes you open to new ways of thinking, basically.
it definitely does, isn't it? And I got be honest, this is why I agree 100% with what the research says. I have to be honest, is exactly how I feel I've turned out. I genuinely think that it's amazing how it does that to the brain. And I don't think anything. I've had a lot of therapy.
Well,
I learned more about myself on the 4-hour trip than I did in 32 years of my life.
but this is how I see it, right? We get all of our antibiotics from mushrooms, from fungus, penicillin, all these things that are fighting these infections in the body, right? Mm-hmm. Magical mushrooms and LSD comes from fungus. It's the same thing. It all comes from mushrooms and fungi. But it's the same things we get antibiotics from. We get these things. We slap on penicillin, like moldy bread and stuff, to help with an infection. If you've got a cut, I really do see psychedelics as antibiotics for the brain.
Yeah.
It is literally an antibiotic for the brain.
Yeah.
That's, that is what it is. And I much more see it as a medicine than a drug. Because do you call amoxicillin, fluoxetine, penicillin, do you call them drugs? Yeah, they are drugs, but you call them medicine.
The medicine
Because it is
they do have medicinal purposes, and that's the point, isn't it?
It's treating an infection, and this is just an infection. You can't see it in the brain.
This is the bit that confuses me, see, because if something has a medicinal purpose, can't see why it isn't seen like that. But then alcohol's got no medicinal purpose. Massively responsible for addictions and people kill themselves, people beating each other on nights out, mental health, all sorts. And yet, that's legal and on the shelf. And in COVID, we were killing through them aisles, grabbing little wishing nuts and that.
And that's it, isn't it? And in society,
because we're told that's okay.
Our generation has got a problem with cocaine and alcohol, and I can see where a lot of mental health, that it didn't apply to everyone, because Josh didn't do cocaine or did. That was completely different. People kill themselves for all sorts of reasons. People have depression for all sorts of reasons. But what I'm saying is, there are things that we have normalized in our society that are not good for our mental health.
They're not good.
Things like alcohol, which is legal, coke, which is illegal, but actually very socially accepted on a night out.
Yeah.
In the club.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to get at there. It's like someone pulled out a bag and...
If you told somebody, and it's happened, they go, I'm not sorry, I've taken acid. People go, I'm just like, really? You got a bag of cocaine? How are we different, really?
Probably very different, actually.
I am different, but the fact that you're looking at me like I'm crazy, I think it's that word, it's been so, everybody spoke about the 70s, like it's the worst thing ever. And
I just see the difference between us, what is natural and what is processed, cooking, yes, it comes from a cocoa plant, but it's been highly processed to get to that powder stick that it is. Same as alcohol. Yeah, it might come from gone off fruits and things. Still been processed to get to where it is. Vegan and mushrooms, they come as they are. Nature's provided them as they are. I see them the same as like kind of food. Processed food is bad for you.
Yeah, everything's bad for you.
If it's been processed.
Just been processed. And I think hopefully this topic will be suitable one day. And we can, I'm just glad to get all that actually reading.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of Josh.
Josh is what has drove me to do this podcast. And I guess the reason I'm sitting here spilling my guts about it is because, well, one, I want to talk about it. I think it's important to talk about it.
Well, suicide as well, you know, essentially you delve deeper into these types of traumas individually, but touching on it this time of year as well.
I want to talk about it. It's the timing is, but also if you're listening to this and you know someone who it might benefit, that's why we're doing this. You know, I over the last 2 years and just listening to other podcasts of people who have gone through similar experiences has really helped me.
Yeah.
It's really helped me a lot, and that's why now I think I'm in the right place to be able to talk about my experiences and listen to other people's experiences and just build learning and just, yeah, that's it.
A community, maybe. People want to come and listen to some traumatic stuff if they want to. But also, you know, share our other ways that we've dealt with it, other ways other people have dealt with it, and, you know, kind of try and get a nice even thing of ideas going on eventually. But yeah. So thank you for coming to see us at Trauma and Tea, and thank you, Matt, for sharing. Like we said before, we can't start a pod about other people's traumas if we don't share our own. So I really appreciate you today sharing that. And if anybody's got any stories they want us to read out or wants to come and share their story on here, you're welcome to email us at is it spell at traumaandtea.com?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting used to these emails. And yeah, thank you, Matt. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.
Sure.